Here's the funny thing about iPads. Unlike a phone or a computer, it's really hard to argue that someone needs one of these. But they have a tremendous ability to enhance your day-to-day life as a companion device. And this video is about how I use mine throughout the day. I had quite a few challenges before I even started making this video. Firstly, over on my community wall, I promised that I would try and stay away from some of the typical content creator activities I get up to and make this all about everyday uses that anyone might find useful. So that means no podcasting, no Final Cut action, and no design work. Secondly, I have to choose which iPad to use. So the M4 iPad Pro is a really capable device, but these days I'm riding with the new iPad mini, so we're going to be using that throughout the video. And that comes with its own set of challenges, namely battery life, the many quirks of iPad OS, and whether it can keep up with me for a full day of all my work. Let's see. I usually wake up most days around 5:30 a.m. without an alarm, and I go for a casual 10-mile run before an hour of mindfulness practice. Yeah, obviously I'm kidding. I'd love to stay in bed until 10 a.m, but I'm usually woken up by a tiny human poking me and telling me they're hungry. That's one of my children, by the way. I'm not Willy Wonka. So once I've sorted my kids out with some breakfast and got them ready for school, I'm back at home and on with my day. And at this point, the new iPad mini is at 100% battery life, as I usually just leave it charging overnight. Now, sometimes I'm out working with clients and I've got to travel, but generally I'm at home and I'm left to my own devices because I work for myself. And that can go one of two ways. Either I make myself a coffee, spend a few minutes catching up on my social feeds and YouTube before heading out to get some work done, or I fall down a YouTube black hole and before I know it, it's lunchtime. Thankfully, today is not one of those days, as this would be a really short video. Focus modes helps me to avoid that happening. I actually made my own focus mode called Don't Distract Me, which gets rid of all notifications and it hides away any apps that I know are going to deviate me from what I need to get done. And before I head over to the office, I sometimes catch up with some urgent emails at home. Typically here, I like to keep my iPad on this stand from Bank so that it acts like a second monitor. It's really handy as a little to-do list or a calendar checker when I'm working, and also lets me use it in sidecar mode if I ever want to extend my MacBook screen onto it at any point when I'm working. Now you might think that the iPad mini screen is too dull or slow to use in this way, but I always find it handles life as a second display absolutely fine. Today I've got a morning meeting, so I'm heading out to a coffee shop to catch up on some notes early before that person I'm meeting arrives. Now, having the Apple Pencil Pro is super handy here, and my favourite app for handwritten notes is GoodNotes 6. But this app is packed full of features which I mostly don't use, but I just like knowing that all my notes are in place with automatic dates added, and I can go and track back and even search to find particular notes if I ever need them. I've also got different notebooks set up for different parts of my life to make it easier to keep track of all of my scribbles. Now, speaking of that, one thing I really wish GoodNotes had was the Apple Notes Smart Scribe feature that kind of tidies up your handwriting for you, and I hope maybe we'll see that added one day. And we ended up doing some brainstorming together, so in this meeting I decided to keep the pencil close to hand and a nice blank GoodNotes sheet open so that we could collaborate together. Now, even on this little screen, it means that if we come up with something that works, I can easily just share the outputs of our conversation in a way that will make sense if they were to look at it a few days later. Now, after the meeting, I've got some more thoughts to type up, so I break out my little Sodi foldable keyboard and start to type them up. This keyboard is so much nicer than any other iPad mini compatible keyboard that I've tried, and for me, that key travel and portability is just spot on. It's also helpful to have the option of either just using the iPad touchscreen when I need to, or the built-in trackpad in the keyboard. And this also doubles as a numpad if I need to do anything with numbers. Numbers wise, there's also the option of using the Math Notes feature in iPad OS to run simple calculations. This actually works surprisingly well, and if you only have your Apple Pencil to hand, it's much easier than getting into the difficulties of using your keyboard to make calculations on the fly if you're in the middle of a note, or you even need to do something like a quick currency conversion. Now, before we move on, I need to tell you about something shocking that I recently discovered, which was that only a tiny number of people watching my videos are subscribers. Now, if you're watching this and you like the all-round vibe, please consider hitting the subscribe button, as it massively helps me out, plus helps other awesome people like you find my content. Anyway, we should probably talk about Apple Intelligence at some point. This was unveiled at WWDC, and Apple have been hammering home the benefits of an Apple Intelligent powered device all year. I've been testing the beta version in the latest release for a couple of months now, and my overall reaction has been, Firstly, it's important to note that a lot of the deep integration that Apple promised at WWDC, like having a context-sensitive Siri that would be able to search through all your apps to answer questions, it just isn't there yet. It probably won't even arrive until well into next year. So what have we got then? Well, we get the text summary feature in some Apple apps like Mail and Notes, although this will only become really useful once it's integrated into other apps which, let's be honest, already have their own better versions of this. For instance, I'm in the process of moving all of my note-taking over from Notion to Craft, and this comes with a built-in AI assistant that uses the latest ChatGPT models and gives you tons of features like summaries, rewriting, suggesting titles, repurposing things, and more. Now, in my testing, I found that this is already light years ahead of what I'm getting with Apple Intelligence's writing tools, which feel all just a bit basic. With Apple's writing tools, for instance, you can do things like summarize large blocks of text, you can generate key points or rewrite things in a friendly, professional, or more concise tone, but more controlled or nuanced prompts just aren't quite as clever as Craft or even the native ChatGPT app, which is interesting because I've connected Apple Intelligence to my ChatGPT Pro account and it should be pulling similar responses across, but it isn't. If I ever need something from an AI assistant, I still haven't yet developed the muscle memory to ask Siri, and I still tend to go straight to my iPad app for ChatGPT. And the cool thing here is that I can either just type out a prompt or I can use the voice activation mode to have a full-blown conversation with my favorite AI assistant. Just look at the difference here if I ask Siri versus my ChatGPT app. Can you translate the following into Norwegian? Hello, my name is Mark. I'm a YouTuber from the UK. Hi, my name is Mark. I am a YouTube creator from the UK.
Hei, jeg heter Mark, og jeg en YouTube-skaper fra Storbritannia.
Oh yeah, there's also Image Playground, which at the moment is kind of like a novelty toy. It's cool for about 5 minutes to have a play with, but there's nothing really of substance here, and certainly not on a par with something like DALL-E's drawing tools or something like Midjourney, like night and day difference. I mean, does this look like me in a forest wearing a beanie hat? Please be gentle with your replies to that one. Anyway, at this point, the iPad is still at 72% battery life, so it's time to head off and into the studio to get some work done. Now, on the menu today, I've got a bunch of emails to reply to, some accounting jobs to do, and also a presentation to write. I've also got a couple of video calls to make as well. Now, I tend to do a lot of my heavy productivity work on my laptop, but the iPad mini tends to live right here, just by my mouse, whether it's taking a set of notes during a phone call, or maybe acting as my FaceTime machine for video calls. I also like to use it as a massive timer to rehearse my timings for presentations, and this little Pomodoro app is great for making sure that I take breaks and sit and stand as often as possible. It's the end of the day, it's getting dark now, my battery's running low, and the iPad's battery life is at 42%, so I pack up and head home. Now, we usually eat late after the kids have gone to bed, so the iPad's perfect to have out on the side to check recipes and timers when we're making our evening meal. It just doesn't get in the way at all, and even though it's mini, I can still read all the information nice and clearly. Now, something I've only recently started doing is using my iPad mini as a portable gaming device, and especially if my wife wants to watch something different on the family TV, I can still be in the same room as her and connect to my PlayStation remotely to enjoy some of my favourite games. Just a quick warning for PlayStation users, even if I'm in the same room and on the same network as my PlayStation, there is still a little bit of latency, so you kind of have to choose your games wisely or pick from the Apple Arcade Store for a more native, faster experience. Now, here's a little gaming hack which a lot of people don't know about. If you've got a Netflix account, they've made available a bunch of really great games as part of your Netflix subscription that you can just download straight to your iPad. It's pretty cool. Now, a lot of people, myself included, have made a bit of a fuss of the latest iPad mini's 500 nits brightness, especially compared to the far brighter Pro model. But this really comes into its own if you want to use your iPad in bed and you don't want tons of blue light screaming into your eyes and messing with your sleep. Now, she's not here in this shot, but I usually have some company in bed, and dialing the brightness down really low means I can easily catch up on some YouTube videos or even use the Kindle app to do some light reading without disturbing my wife's beauty sleep. I'm going to bed with the iPad still at 14% battery life on what has been a day of pretty heavy use. I think for a device this size, that's about as much as you can hope for. And again, if we'd had a brighter, faster screen in this year's iPad mini release, it probably would have taken its toll on the smaller battery side than this device. Compromises, eh? Well, I hope you found a few new uses for your iPad there, whether it's the mini or one of the other models. The thing I'm really interested in is how do you use yours? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested to see some of the other note-taking apps I use with my iPad, you'll find my pick of the very best in this video over here. See you next time, folks.